Welcome back to The Rustic Wife. I'm Alana. Today I've got a busy day. I've got to preserve a few things from the garden. I've got tomatoes and some beans to do. I also have some grapes that we're pulling off the stem. Our friends were nice enough to give us some grapes, so we'll put those in the freezer so that I have some time in the winter. Actually, maybe not the winter, but when I'm done doing the rest of my stuff out of the garden, I'll make some juice and some jelly out of those. So I also have laundry to do and dishes and just a whole bunch of other stuff that has to be done. So I thought I'd bring you along today. So here's the last of these grapes. They're more like a wild grape. They're not as big as a Concord, but they'll have to be picked off the stem before we put them in the freezer. Otherwise your jelly or juice will taste like the stems. And I know that because I've done it. So we picked them all off the stems and I'm just gonna throw those, I'm gonna rinse them off and throw them into a freezer bag until I have time to process them. There we go. So that is the last of these grapes. I've been invited by another fella to pick grapes at his place, and I'm gonna go back there. We have just a few of our own, and then we also pick wild grapes for juice and jelly. So that's gonna go in the freezer until I can process them. So this time of year, with all the fruit that is ripening and being preserved, I always have a little fruit fly trap here. And I use wine. A lot of people use apple cider vinegar, but I use wine. I don't like the smell of apple cider vinegar, so I like the smell of wine. And I just put a bit of wine in a wine glass. You can put it in anything you want, but I find the wine glass seems a little bit more inviting for them to join your dinner party. And I add a couple of drops of dish soap. Apparently the dish soap will cut the surface tension of the vinegar or the wine, and it makes them sink to the bottom. I see one floating there, so usually they sink to the bottom. But anyway, I put some plastic wrap over top with a couple of holes so they get into the holes and they can't get back out and they drown. So if you set out a little inviting thing for them, they come to it and then they die, which is good. Alright, I am going to be making some dilly beans. I have to tip these, and these ones are done. I have to run down to the garden and get some fresh dill. I have some here, but not enough. And I have my garlic. I need some hot pepper rings too, so I'll get some of those. And my jars are sterilizing in the oven. So, we'll head down to the garden. Okay. We're at my overgrown and weedy herb garden, but I've got lots of dill. So we'll pick some ferns and some dill heads too. You can see the garden's changed. We've got the tobacco pulled out. Some of it is curing in the basement. My glads are starting to come to an end. There are a few of them that are still blooming, but I'll pull those out later on in the fall, and I can save the corms. Also, the corn's out. I have that frozen. And the potatoes, we still haven't harvested those, but we'll wait and do those when the all the foliage dies off. Got our cabbage, a lot of a lot of insect holes, but we have some anyway. What was here? I think this was the lettuce originally. The cucumbers, they are gone except for one plant down there, which is an English variety, and our peppers here. So I'm going to come in here and pick a couple hot peppers for the dill beans. I will pick some of these here. They look nice. These are the hot banana peppers. I'll have to pick a bunch of these to can too. What else I got? Here's some nice yellow ones down here. That should be enough. Isabel loves these, but she doesn't like them too hot, so I'll just put a few rings in each jar. Getting the beans pulled out here. We had a tough time with beans this year. This is the second planting we did, and because we had to put them so close together, we kind of ran out of room. The first planting of beans got a mosaic virus further down in the garden, so we had to find space for them, and because they were crowded, they kind of went moldy underneath the foliage. I just stole these from Isabel's room. They're chocolates from her granny. She's from Scotland and she always buys her British chocolate, so I just stole these. Alright, I got my jars packed with the dill, garlic, spices, and the hot pepper ring. So what I've got in here, in each jar, I've done a half teaspoon of mustard seed, a half a teaspoon of black peppercorns. I also did a quarter teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. I've done about 2 heads of dill, 2 cloves of garlic in each jar. Now I'm going to put the beans in there, and I also have my brine going. So I'm just going to let that come to a boil, and then I'll finish these. Now because I pickle the beans in pint jars, they have to be trimmed so that they fit this jar. So my brother made me this little contraption right here. He made it out of cedar, so when the beans are wet from washing them, it won't affect the wood. Sometimes it does if you use pine. So he made this and he measured it so I would know how much to cut off and they'll all fit in the jar. And then he cut 2 grooves on either side for the knife to cut through so I won't cut myself. And just fit the knife in the grooves. And those beans are the perfect size to pack into the pint jars. Now you won't need to worry about this if you're using quart jars for your pickles. They fit perfectly, so you can see right there. You always need to leave a bit of space there for when the jars are going to seal, but they all fit perfectly. And then I just keep the ends and I put them in a bag for the winter for soups and stews, and they're already cut up, perfect size. So yeah, so that was a handy little gadget that he made me. Got some of the beans done, and I have a few more left to add brine to, and then I'll can those. All right, I've got my beans done over my shoulder there. I have some extra brine that I had right there, so I just put it in jars, and I'm going to use that brine for some peppers that I'm going to pick here shortly. Maybe I'll pick them tomorrow, I'm not sure. I'm kind of running out of time. I have to go to the garden to get stuff for supper, but I'm gonna show you the dessert that I'm gonna make. All right, this is a really quick and easy dessert. It's a hot fudge pudding cake, self-saucing, really good with whipped cream or ice cream, so it's really quick. I have just my cake pan, or it's just a little casserole pan actually, and I always put it on a cookie sheet with parchment because sometimes it bubbles over. So I have that, and then in my bowl I've got my flour, sugar, cocoa powder. There's also salt and baking powder in the flour mixture. So I just want to stir that around. And I'll put the recipe in the description. Then we have some buttermilk. You don't have to use buttermilk. You can use just plain milk, and some oil and some vanilla. I'm gonna mix all that together. It's gonna kind of look like a brownie batter. It's really good. Spread this into your pan. You can use a 9 by 9 square cake pan if you want. Just spread it out. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then over the top, you're gonna sprinkle a mixture of brown sugar and cocoa powder. It's gonna look like a lot, but you need it because this is the part that makes the sauce. And then you wanna add hot water. Just hot tap water is fine. You just wanna pour that over the top so it's even. And the trick is you don't stir. So you carefully put that in the oven at 350 and bake for about 35 minutes or 35 to 40 minutes, or until this puffs up. And underneath those, so there'll be a cake, and then underneath there'll be a hot fudge sauce. It's so good. I need to grab a couple of things out of the garden for supper. I need a cabbage, but they're not ready yet, so I'm just gonna see if there's a cabbage that I could steal. So, ooh, here's a nice one. I mean, it's not going to be, it's not ready, but no, it's too soft. And that's kind of soft too. I hate to do it, but I need cabbage for my recipe. I need a green pepper. Here's one. I picked a really big one the other day. Oh, here's one. The leeks aren't ready yet, so I kept these onions. These ones kind of weren't that good. Actually, I used these ones. Well, the chicken chores have been done, and the little guys are tucked in here. All I have to do is shut the doors tonight. These girls take forever to get in here. I like to do a head count, make sure they're all in there. Night girls, night red. So the critters are all tucked in for the night. They're all cozy, and my chores are all done for the day, and they'll start again tomorrow morning. There's always something to do. But I just want to point out, can you believe how dark it is already? The days are just so short so quickly. It just seemed to happen overnight. Now it is overcast a little bit, but they have been getting shorter. But, oh well, I guess it happens every year, doesn't it? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again next time.